Parents across Canada are keeping an eye on the fight behind Saskatchewan's new law, the Parents' Bill of Rights.
Yes.
Mr. McMorris.
Yes.
This fall, after an emergency session and the notwithstanding clause, Saskatchewan's Parents' Bill of Rights became law.
I assent to this bill.
Canada's first provincial education law that could limit gender identity in schools.
This bill, at its very core, is about us providing parents the right, not the opportunity, to support their child.
The most controversial part is that school staff now have to get parental permission before using a different name or gender identity for students under 16, like changing pronouns. Instantly, critics shared anger and fear the law could hurt trans kids, so a divided province emerged.
I would have rather died in school than have gotten a phone call to my parents.
We have the right to know what's going on with our children.
The province says its parental bill of rights is based off of what parents want. So we're here in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, to hear what some of them have to say. And Dustin, what about you? How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids. One of the biggest things becomes having the control over what my kids, what they're hearing, what they're learning, what they're being taught.
I would like to see this be a law across the country.
Murray Fraze and Dustin Matthews like the new law. They say parenting has changed and they need extra help.
They have everything right at their fingertips to be able to explore, quite honestly, some pretty scary subjects if there's issues that are happening behind your back and going on without our knowing. That it adds a huge variable of security to know that legally now we have to be informed as parents.
With preteens and teens of their own, these lifelong friends say the law protects what they know as the family unit.
It seems that a lot of these ideas, these ideologies, these whatever you want to call them, it's forced its way in as you have to accept this. And I think that's kind of where the panic button comes in. If this is the conversation that my kid is going to have, it's important that they have it with me first.
And what are you talking about specifically when you say ideologies?
I guess I speak of that in general terms, and it applies to far more things than gender identity. I mean, even the fact of changing names. I'm sorry, but he doesn't have that authority to do that.
But some say a child would have that authority and that this law violates their charter rights. As individuals, parents and kids all have fundamental freedoms like the freedom of thought, the right to equality, and the right to liberty and security of the person. And one person's rights are not more important than another's.
When I think parental rights, I think of the big 3. I think healthcare, education, cultural, and religion.
Family lawyer Kathleen Peterson says the idea of parental rights comes up in her work, but she's unsure how this law will play out in court.
So parents have that circle of rights in relation to their children, to the limits of where the law says, no, you can't do that.
So in court, the judge sides with what's best for the child, not the parent.
What concerns you about, the lack of specificity when we talk about parental rights?
I think that people are using, some people, not everybody, but I think that people are using rights as a cudgel. It's a club to beat the other side with. It's not about what the parents believe or what the parents are comfortable with. What is in the child's best interest?
The idea of parental rights has gotten a lot of attention lately. In the U.S., hundreds of parents' rights bills have been introduced just this year, most targeting gender and sex education. The Canadian movement culminated in September's 1 Million March for Children, a national push to cut sex and gender curriculum and gender-free washrooms in schools.
The government is not our dad and mom because we have the say on our kids, not you. So we respect gays, we respect lesbians, we respect all the people, but they have to respect our rights too.
But Evan Balgord with the Canadian Anti-Hate Network says there are kids who can't go to their parents.
Just families that maybe aren't supportive of their being gay or trans makes us very concerned because those situations have a great potential for abuse.
He says for decades, parental rights has been a buzzword to spread homophobic and anti-trans rhetoric, all sowing distrust in the education system.
You'll often see arguments about parental rights appearing alongside, not always, but very, very frequently, arguments against trans people existing in general.
In this space, Regina's queer community choir can just be. It's a place Lene Hicks often brings her non-binary 16-year-old.
I don't want to be that person that puts up barriers. I want to be the parent that provides opportunity.
She wants young queer kids to know others can offer that support.
If they need a listening ear or someone to understand without judgment, that's not going to go tell their parents, then I'm that person.
Regina teacher Brendan Dickey started this choir.
I get to work with kids on being open and accepting.
He says this law puts his and his colleagues' jobs at risk if they don't follow protocol.
In the schools, it kind of stresses me out because I'm thinking well, how long until they start telling queer teachers that they can't be teaching in the schools if we're going down this road? If a kid came up to me and was coming out, I'd probably have to be hey, have you told your parents? And then, which is the same conversation as usual, but then it shifts to okay, now I have to go and tell my admin, and then they have to phone your parents and talk about it, which is scary for the kids. And I think we're going to see probably a lot of kids not coming out, but also looking at self-harm and depression.
There is nobody in this world that loves my child more than I, or my wife and I.
It seems everyone just wants to be a good parent. It's just unclear if this new law will help that happen.